Boom, we're live. Welcome back, cosmonauts, cetonauts. I'm back with the man, Jack Zampolin. Just a quick recap. What happened since we last talked? Right, we talked 4 weeks ago today, for the last time here live. Since then, Sommelier launched staking rewards, which are currently at 13%. That's amazing. Real yield. We're going to talk about this. Proposal 103 and 104 passed, and like last time we talked about it, I think it was just went on chain, or I don't really fully remember, but public goods funding, and that was also
for Notional and Confio. Yeah,
Notional and Confio, exactly. Both went through. Replicated security, Atom has a use case, went through, is going live in 6 days on the 15th. What also happened, we saw a picture of Jay Kwon and Ethan Buckman together hugging each other, smiling at ETH Denver. We can talk about that and your thoughts. Silvergate went bankrupt, which was also big news and also dragged down the whole market apparently. Coinbase announced an Ethereum L2, and I moved to Dubai, which you can see here in my nice background now. That's when you set up.
The view is unreal.
Yeah, that's I love this view. Like, I think I can never get tired of this. But man, how have you been? It's been 4 weeks. How is everything?
Good.
How are you?
Good. I missed the last one because I was in Denver, just at the Interop Summit. Great group of Cosmos folks there. Really good to see people. There's a ton of energy and excitement in the ecosystem right now.
Another news I forgot to mention, we also got him here in the chat, Confident in Crypto. Liam, he joined us at Cryptocito. So Cryptocito team is growing. We're growing. He's going to lead governance stuff, which is super important, as you know. Like, this stuff is getting out of hand, so you can never have
Shout out
Liam. Yeah, Liam is amazing.
You know, I think getting some more people working full-time on that governance. Lit just joined Notional, really like him a lot. Liam, you're also fantastic. Having people bring a calm and collected point of view and just distribute that is going to drown out a lot of these sort of louder voices that are just shouting for blood constantly. So really stoked about that. Also stoked we kept you in Cosmos, Liam. I was worried. You were gonna fade off into the ether, and you're still here, which is great.
No, I think he's a core cosmonaut, and he just also, I think, what's super important, and like you set up a huge team, right? And I think just working in a team is a real game changer as opposed to just working by yourself, right? Like, and as a content creator especially, like, this stuff can get really either lonely or like you get demotivated, or it's tough. It's really tough. So yeah, I'm super glad that things turn out. But I hope. Yeah, he's saying I was never leaving, sir. Yeah, he's still around. And also doing some gaming stuff in Cosmos. So, but yeah.
Nice.
So how was ETH Denver? How was the summit and everything?
I see somebody says, Jack, you look happier today compared to last time. It is because of Denver. Denver was fantastic. Strangelove is actually a fully remote team. And a lot of folks I've hired just because they commit to the Cosmos repos or through validator chat rooms or whatever it is. And a lot of those folks I have not met in the real life before. Even people have been working with me for almost a year now. So there were 13 different Strangelovians in Denver, and I got to meet a huge chunk of the team that I hadn't met before, which was great. We got a lot of really exciting things coming up, and that was a huge highlight. Also got to connect with a lot of cosmonauts. Saw Bucky and Zaki and a bunch of Celestia folks, a bunch of folks from Axelar, just like really, really great. And you're talking about how being a content creator is lonely, being a dev and you're a CEO now too. There is a loneliness to that, especially when you're just sitting in front of your computer, pounding it out day after day, and hanging out with the people is just a huge morale boost. So yeah, it was great.
Was it the first time since Cosmoverse that you all met, or?
Is it the first time since Cosmoverse?
Cosmoverse was September. I mean, it feels like it was 3 years ago, but it was like 6 months ago.
Yeah. Since I wasn't in Cosmoverse, yeah, it was actually the first time in Cosmoverse we had
yeah,
folks together.
except for you, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
For you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the first time since Cosmoverse.
Nice. But yeah, I think like it also shows like physical events are so important because it just gets everybody. It's like a different vibe, and it's a different chemistry when you just talk in person. You have more time to talk through ideas and things, right? So were there like any cool ideas or anything that you like with Zaki and the rest of the teams that you talked through? Any alpha?
I'm just
Denver
trying
alpha?
to think here. Yeah, there was. I think that Noble has been really high on my mind recently, and I think that people aren't really ready for the DYDX launch. That is going to be a huge catalyst in the ecosystem. It will overnight double, triple, quadruple potentially the TVL of Cosmos chains and add a lot of new capabilities and different trading venues for users. That coupled with Duality and Neutron and a bunch of these other chains launching, I think is a huge catalyst for the broader ecosystem. Also, the composable work that I know I've been talking about for a long time, we're finally getting to the point where we're going to have we're actually going to have that live, and IBC to other ecosystems plus a huge growth of Cosmos itself in the middle of this year is going to be a massive catalyst, and I'm increasingly excited about that.
Yeah, I think people underestimate like DYDX is coming, Sane Network is launching, Celestia is launching this year. There's a couple of projects that migrate. Replicated security went live now, or like past at least. So it seems like Cosmos is still one of the most exciting ecosystems in crypto. Like I think last time we talked also about this. Like I did some research, did some videos also with people from Avalanche, with people from Near. I had Ilya on the show recently.
Ilya's great.
It's all cool. Like it's all amazing what they're doing, but like also the amount of contribution you have from the community in Cosmos, right? And sometimes it's drama. Like we talked about this last time a lot, but it shows like Cosmos is so alive and it's so diverse and there's so much coming, right? I think people sometimes forget that and they only focus on what's going wrong and not what's working, right? And I keep saying, like, I met a bunch of people here in Dubai recently, like in the last few days here. And as we talk about some of these things, I just say like Cosmos is far from perfect and far from complete, but it's still probably one of the most complete ecosystems in crypto. If you look at the competition, right?
It's us and Ethereum, and that's really it. And I think that the reason why we have this sort of excitement in Cosmos is because it is truly an open source project. We have the ability for many, many different contributors to come in and play. From an architecture perspective, we haven't baked in value capture at the base layer, and that keeps attracting more and more talented people who just show up and they're like, I can build a company on top of this. There's no one stealing money from me. And what Ilya and the Near team do, what a bunch of other people do, that is all amazing. Those are all individual Cosmos chains that will all be connected via IBC. Near IBC. Did you talk to Ilya about Near IBC at all?
Of course. Of course.
What did he say?
I mean, he's quite, like, I asked him about Rainbow Bridge first because that's like their Ethereum bridge, right?
Yeah.
And then he said like at some point they just thought like, okay, IBC is probably gonna win, so we just focus on IBC. Like they're pretty like they're like probably one of the first ecosystems outside of Cosmos, like native Cosmos, to say that and like work on that. And I know like with the composable team, I think, and with you guys, I guess they're working on that, right?
Composable's been doing most of the work now on the IBC stuff for them. There have needed to be some lower level changes to the way that Near works so that they can expose some data to the virtual machine. And you know, as you guys know, lower level changes to blockchains like just fucking take a while. So they finally got that stuff up in the virtual machine so that you can, you know, see which validators are validating your particular corner of Near, and you can do the verifications between Near and Cosmos. That data wasn't really available before. And then the other piece of it is the light client. They have a light client in Rust, but there was going to be this huge lift to rewrite it in Go. We've built the WASM light client for the composable work that allows Rust cryptography to be deployed on any Cosmos chain as a part of this light client. And we can just actually like slot in the existing Rust light client. So all that's left is relayer implementation. So I think this summer, probably end of this summer, we should see that live. And because it's not going to be a full upgrade for Cosmos chains, and the WASM light client is already going to be distributed, I think that we'll see that roll out a lot quicker. I'm really excited about Near. I met Ilya back in 2017, I guess. Tyler and I from Strangelove, you know, we were like going around meeting all of the SF crypto teams, and that was when they started working on it. And Tyler was working at Ubisoft at the time, and Near has always been about gaming, and he's been really excited about Near for a while. So very excited to see them.
Yeah, it seems like this is the year also where IBC is really going multi-chain. Like obviously Polkadot Kusama World is coming with the composable implementation. You said Near. There's also, I made a video about this Cardano sidechain that is implementing IBC. They just texted me, actually, they want to get on a call and like learn about it. So all 7 Cardano users can get into Cosmos. No, just kidding. But that's happening. Then there is Eclipse, right, that is deploying the Solana VM and brings IBC also to the Solana VM. I think that's interesting as well.
Yeah, that's built on top of Tendermint. So there's a little bit of nuance here. So IBC relies on this idea of light clients for communication. And this has been the biggest barrier to broader IBC adoption is these light clients are hard to build. Most other chains haven't really been natively designed to utilize these light clients. Even ones that have been built really haven't been used in production in the same way we've used the Tendermint light client. So if it's a different light client, it's harder to implement IBC for it. But what Eclipse is doing is they're using Tendermint and then the Solana virtual machine. So they don't need to rewrite the light client. And that will allow these, you know, what Eclipse is doing is very interesting in its own right, because the issue with Solana DeFi has basically been that the chain keeps going down and those outages cause these price issues, and no one large wants to put serious money on Solana DeFi, which is sad. It really sucks because they spend a bunch of money on that, and there's a lot of amazing code that's been written for Solana DeFi. So Tendermint, even during Terra, doesn't go down. Like, this is what we know about Tendermint. It's an extremely stable production piece of software. It's used broadly. And Neil said, hey, let's take this great VM with all of this excellent code written for it and put it on top of Cosmos and Tendermint. And then we get IBC for free. So that's a really exciting project. I think that that's going to be amazing. You know, Galileo has invested in Eclipse, and we work with that team. Yeah, and on that, like, projects using Tendermint and then doing IBC, there's also a lot of exciting traction too. Nomic, the Bitcoin bridge, Anoma, Chris Goes, who was the lead developer on IBC, his project, along with Adrian Brink, who was one of the first project managers on Cosmos. They're launching a privacy-focused chain that is built on top of Tendermint, but uses a separate application framework that's built in Rust, and they will have IBC there as well. Penumbra, which is a team we've worked extremely closely with, they have another privacy-focused chain with the decentralized exchange on top. It's a lot of folks who used to work on Zcash, particularly the trusted setup pieces on Zcash, a lot of the cryptography that enabled the sapling migration, and a number of other ZK issues on Zcash. That team's incredibly talented, and they've built on Tendermint, and they've got their own IBC implementation there as well. So the other ecosystems piece, we're working with the Landslide team on an Avalanche one. I believe we just signed a contract on that recently. We should hopefully have that for Q3, Q4 this year. We've got Composable with Dot and then Near too. So those two categories are both really active. And yeah, you're right. This is the year IBC becomes multi-ecosystem and really like fulfills the original vision.
Corium also. Corium, they're deploying the X, or like on the XRP ledger, and there's also IBC compatibility there. Did you look into, or were you part of, like, did you work with them on that, or the Corium team?
Oh, on their
like
swap
IBC
slide protocol.
I think they also Corium. You don't know Corium?
I don't know them at all. No.
Okay, like they're like I think it's like the founding team of Sologenic, which apparently is like a DeFi platform on the XRP ledger. But yeah, there's like interesting stuff in the works. Like I honestly at this point, like I'm losing oversight on like all the things that are going on. It's just too much. But like as you mentioned earlier that you were thinking a lot recently about Noble. There was some news that it might not launch as a consumer chain, at least in the beginning. So what is the current stage of Noble, and like what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, we're still planning on launching as a consumer chain at some point. We've been instrumental in helping bring interchain security to market. The Strangelove team was one of the first teams with Noble and Yelena to sign on for interchain security and bringing a major use case. We were active participants in Game of Chains, and in fact, Strangelove as a validator took third or fourth. I believe we were tied for third for Game of Chains. Submitted a lot of fixes upstream. We've made changes to Horcrux to enable it to validate on many different chains concurrently to help support validators and lower infrastructure costs. I've been on this show pumping interchain security for years. So like the last minute changes were a little bit too much, and there was sort of continued timeline slippage. So the decision was made to launch as a proof of authority chain and then migrate over to interchain security. And that's still our plan. It was disappointing to me personally, but we will. It's still going to happen.
How much involved is Circle actually in like building Noble? Like, do they have
extremely involved?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they have really intense compliance. This is the first time they've ever launched on a app chain before. They've only ever launched on general purpose smart contract platforms. So we've been working closely with Circle since, I guess June, July of last year. We speak with them on a regular basis. That team is incredibly professional. I will also say they are bullish on Cosmos. What they're doing with Noble is a long-term bet on this ecosystem, and we're very lucky to have them as a counterparty. Really excited to bring Circle into Cosmos.
Okay, but did they also help like building the chain itself, or
no? Yeah.
Okay, so you basically build out the infrastructure, and then they have their, I guess, compliance and like the other side, right, with the USDC and all these kind of things. Okay.
Yeah, and we make this thing for them to go deploy USDC on, and part of that is audits, part of that is working with their internal compliance and security team to make sure that they're comfortable with all of the things. And when there's last minute changes made to security critical pieces of a protocol right before launch, big organizations like Circle just get uncomfortable for understandable reasons. It doesn't mean that we're not going to launch on interchain security at some point in the future, which is still on my roadmap of things to do. There's already other interchain secured chains that are continuing to push down that path that are going to make a migration from an independent chain to an interchain secured chain. So yeah, I still think that's going to happen.
Nice. Yeah, I think also like now the proposal went through in a week, 6 days. The upgrade happens. Neutron goes live. I think I had an interview, deep dive, 2 days ago actually with Spade Avril from.
That guy's
Neutron.
awesome.
Really good, yeah. He's really good. He dropped too much alpha. Like after the stream, he was like, man, I don't know. I think I dropped too much. But it was really good. And I think Neutron is crucial for replicated security, right? Because that's going to be the first one. It's now all eyes on Neutron. How will they perform? If everything works smooth, if the tech works smooth, how does governance work? How does the slashing stuff work? How do the validators adopt ICS? What are your thoughts on that? Like I know, like last time we talked about it, you were a little bit. It was a more of a frustrated stream. We all were like a little bit down.
I mean, this was like what was happening in the background. There was the decision not to launch Noble with ICS was happening, and like, you know, what you heard from me is like some understandable frustrations about that process. Like, that sucks. I've spent like a lot of the last year trying to make that happen, and it just like it didn't happen. I got it. We got a sleeping baby here. I got to be a little bit less excitable. I got to channel less D.
But it's good. Your passion is back. Your passion on stream is back.
Yeah, it's you know, I think that like I am still long-term bullish on ICS. Like, it is a huge change for Atom, and you know, the Atom Accelerator DAO, some of that public goods funding that the Atom chain has done, like this is what Atom should be doing, and it's good to see the community coming together around that. I see somebody in the chat shouting out Algorand as a potential IBC destination. I've been talking to John over at the Algorand Foundation about bringing IBC to Algorand. Hopefully I've got some updates for you on that soon. Would really love to do that work.
I read, I think on Twitter last 2 days or something, like they had some attacks on their wallets or something. Did you see that? I don't know.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
But yeah, I've been following Algorand like 2 years ago or something, but just got stuck in the Cosmos rabbit hole. There was also somebody asking about ICP. Is that a potential candidate also for IBC?
I have not talked to anyone over at ICP about that. And I don't know of any active conversations around that.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah. What are your thoughts in general about like consumer chains? I know like Duality is on the way. There's some others. Noble is still in the race. Neutron is launching. What do you think? What would it take for ICS to have a real impact? What type of consumer chain or what existing project would you like to see that you think could take it really strongly to the market?
I think that initial list is a really good one. And for, you know, pivoting to the Atom 2.0 discussion, I still think the allocator and the scheduler are two things that would make great consumer chains, or potentially the allocator itself might live on the hub directly. But, you know, this idea of offering interchain services, this idea of the hub bootstrapping this network of value, and then being able to go sell services into that network, I still think is alive and well. And I still think that is the most likely way that the hub becomes wildly successful. And interchain security is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, again, it's all eyes on Neutron now. We got to see how they will launch. Apparently, they will launch with a lot of applications from the beginning. So that's going to be interesting. Liquid staking is also gaining steam. P-Stake is there. Quicksilver is in the race. Stride is migrating as a consumer chain. So a lot of cool stuff happening. Also, what I'm personally really excited about, maybe we can talk about this before potentially a special guest is joining us, and we can go deeper on some of the 2.0 ideas. The Atom Zone is coming. The Atom Zone, which is...
you got to tell me about Atom Zone. I'm not even in the know on this. Give alpha.
I mean, the Atoms, like, I think one of the best things that could have happened to the hub communication, our guest is here. Should we bring him on? Talk about the Atom Zone?
Well, Zaki, I don't think Zaki knows about Atom Zone either. But Zaki's cooler than I am.
Zaki.
He probably does know about Atom Zone.
You look good.
I know about Atom Zone. It's Rob and Cito's Atom community event call thing.
Yeah. So I was just
Need it.
saying, first of all, Zaki, thank you for joining. It's great to see you.
I am cool enough to know about Atom Zone.
I think we talked about this a lot, right? Like, I think one of the things that's super important is communications and alignment. And I think the Cosmos Hub never really had a clear content structure, never had a really clear like communication funnel. And I think Rob is doing a great job also managing now the Cosmos account and the Cosmos Hub account on Twitter, pushing content out there. And so the idea of the Atom Zone is basically to have a format that's also entertaining and engaging. We'll have a weekly Twitter Spaces that is hosted by Rob and myself, which, you know, I hope you guys are frequent guests on. We can share development updates now with Confio and Notional and, you know, Strangelove, Inclusion. Like, all you guys are doing work on the Hub or have done a lot of work on the Hub. So just to like communicate that, and I hope that also reestablishes some of the alignment between all these core development teams that are working on the Hub. And then the second element to the Atom Zone is what's called radioactive sessions, which is an open space. There's no moderators. Nobody knows when they happen or how they happen or what's the topic. I think the first one was actually just announced. Let me see before I say something wrong.
I was assuming that a man would show up and kidnap the guests.
Who knows? Who knows?
But
yeah,
you know,
the first session.
Catering.
The first session was just announced actually for this Friday, so tomorrow, 3 p.m. UTC. We'll have the first session. Everybody should join. I'm actually going to drop the link right now in the chat so people can see that. But yeah, I hope everybody will join there. And that's like a very open, interactive session. There's no moderators. Like, everybody can just talk. It's going to be chaotic, I guess, in the beginning, but maybe there will be some structure from the community. And I think that's a very cool idea. And like, so we have these 2 slots basically per week, or who knows how many times we do the radioactive sessions. But yeah, I think that could help to improve communications from the Hub. Did I bore you?
No,
No.
I mean, I'm sitting here reading about this radioactive session. It's like,
I think Rob is doing a great job. I think he honestly is a phenomenal hire from the ICF's point of view. You know, I think it's really great to have someone trying to actually, like, you know, have someone actually own an Atom content strategy. Absolutely. Like,
and I think Rob is really the perfect guy for that. Like, he has very strong experience in that, branding wise, structure wise. He's also very articulate. He's very clear, and like, he has a good strategy. He has a vision also, and he's a long-term cosmonaut, so he knows his stuff. So yeah. But yeah, yes, tomorrow 3 p.m. UTC, first Atom Zone live. But yeah, Zaki, what are your thoughts? We already talked, Jack and I, a little bit about replicated security coming, some of the consumer chains. What are your thoughts on the whole RS stuff?
I mean, I think so, like, general thoughts. So like, one, I think replicated security is moving in the right direction, just overall, like, phenomenal. It's like, it's great that it's launching. Like, the MVP is good. I think it's good that we're getting this off the ground. I think the pressures that we're going to start, I think there is going to be pressure on Atom about why teams should align with Atom, right? And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that the Cosmos Hub has to solve, especially given that, you know, alternative security models are coming to the ecosystem. So the dominant alternative security models that are also coming this year are mesh security and Celestia, right? These are alternative security models to Atom replicated security. And so now you're going to have basically 4 security models to choose from, which is completely sovereign chain, replicated security, um, replicated security, Celestia, mesh security. And like the team at Informal seems to be working, I mean, based on my conversations with Jahan, seems to be working pretty hard on also like sort of, opt-in replicated security or partial replicated security as also a model that the hub would make available, which is interestingly enough can use technology that Celestia developed for Rollkit, because you need fraud proofs in that scenario, and so more options are in some senses good, but on the other hand, the Cosmos Hub is going to have to differentiate itself. It's going to, like right now, again, core differentiator of the Cosmos Hub continues to be like that Atom is the most liquid asset, and the most the biggest source of onboarding and offboarding in the ecosystem. That moat won't last forever. And this is so I think the problem that was posed in Atom 2.0 is, hey, here's a problem, which is how do we make Atom as a security provider differentiated and a good partner and replicated? Whether or not the solution is the allocator is, I think, something that should be debated. But I think one of the things we have to move forward as a community is like, how are we going to solve this? But I do think replicated security is moving in a really good direction in general.
Yeah, I also saw you made a tweet 15 hours ago saying that without the allocator, Atom is so unprepared for the security wars.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Like, we were waiting a little bit with Jack before we get into allocator scheduler, because I think like when it was introduced at Cosmoverse and when it went into the forum, I think a lot of people didn't really understand why that's needed, right? But now with RS coming to life, people slowly seem to like understand that this was a very, very thoughtful plan that you had, like way ahead of its time, right? So maybe can you remind everybody why that's a crucial piece and why you think without the allocator, Atom is unprepared for security?
So let's say you have a choice between mesh security with osmosis and let's say axelar, which and osmosis are both doing mesh security, which seems to be like general vague sense of how things are working. Okay, and you're like, okay, I use osmosis for liquidity, and osmosis is like pumping a bunch of liquidity incentives towards my token, right? Towards like my token Osmo pair, and I use axelar for bridging to bring my product, whatever my application is, to the world. And it's like, hey, these seem to be like natural things to be like doing staking incentives with, doing mesh security with. Fantastic. And then you have this alternative and you're like, oh, but what I could do Atom. Okay, well, is Atom providing any liquidity incentives for my token, helping bootstrap liquidity? No. Is Atom providing any bridging? No. What does Atom provide? Well, high TVL, right? And there's a product problem here with that world, right? Where if Atom isn't actually involved in people's products and services and offering something unique and differentiated, there's going to be competition about where you're going to get your security from.
So can you maybe explain a little bit more specifically about this allocator and scheduler, and how it's like this flywheel for Atom?
So
yes,
the idea of the allocator is the ability to provide something more like essentially like what osmosis token incentives can do for projects and protocols, right? Is it's like, hey, you're launching a new token. It has these use cases. You launched a stable coin, etc. The idea of the allocator is, to go out and provide, well, instead of incentivizing liquidity, hold the liquidity natively in the hub. Because like everybody who sees that, you know, just like pumping out token incentives, osmosis style, is hurting the price of Osmo and like isn't a great model. So what the idea of the allocator was is instead of like pumping out incentives to incentivize, oh, liquidity, why couldn't the Cosmos Hub just own the liquidity? Right? Like, why couldn't the Cosmos Hub say, hey, Stride, you're launching on top of the Cosmos Hub of interchain security. As part of the partnership, we're gonna own a bunch of ST Atom liquidity on Osmosis, Crescent, other places, as part of the Cosmos Hub. Right? And if we do that model, now Stride is like, oh, well, okay, we could, you know, I was sort of responding to it. Like, there's that tweet thread is about like Sunny going, hey, Stride, like, why are you doing this? Why can't you do, you should do mesh security? And like in a world without the allocator, frankly, there's a sense to that. There's like a logic to why Stride should partner with their other economic partners in mesh security. Whereas in the presence of the allocator and the allocator's ability to own Atom, like own liquidity in like assets that Stride, you know, ST Osmo, ST Atom, etc. Now Stride suddenly like, oh, this is a no-brainer why we would do replicated security. And you know, that's the logical problem that the allocator is trying to solve.
There's also a question from Liam whether there are individual proposals. I mean, like after 2.0 was downvoted, we have actually seen some of the ideas already being executed, right? The community tax was increased from 2 to 10%, Prop 95 with the Atom Accelerator DAO, which is kind of like this BD arm of the Cosmos Hub now. Are you guys aware? I think, Jack, last time we talked, you said something that there's some individual teams working on these ideas, but like, do you know anything about like allocator scheduler, if there's anything in the works independently? Or
I mean, I think that the Atom Accelerator DAO is in some ways this sort of like council allocator idea. And I think that in the true spirit of Cosmos, we're kind of iterating towards getting fully there. So we'll just see how that plays out over the next period. I think that there are definitely some on-chain mechanisms that should be and can and should be developed, and maybe the Atom Accelerator DAO ends up playing that role. But yeah, I think it's really healthy to see a team funded by the hub to work directly on these issues.
I think like where the Atom Accelerator DAO comes in is, especially on the governance front and maybe on the proto allocator front, there is an enormous opportunity for the but like, I mean, like, okay, so what everyone is seeing right now is the problems that Atom 2.0 was designed to solve. Everyone's like, oh, there are all these small, chaotic, unaccountable funding proposals. This is why we didn't propose the tax increase in Atom 2.0. Like, everything that we said would go wrong with the tax increase in 2.0 is going wrong right now, right? Like, like you have all these small proposals. They're hard to evaluate. There's no accountability structure around delivering for any of them. Like, this is why we propose, don't do a tax increase, do the council structure. And like, you know, and the Atom price is suffering. Like, inflation is super high right now. You know, and like having a credible plan to get to lower inflation is something that Atom definitely needs. These are the problems of Atom 2.0. The fact that replicated security is launching, but there are other competing security models out there that have different economic properties, and that replicated security isn't a no-brainer in that world, is a thing that we foresaw. So, you know, I do think that the basic problem structure that And maybe all we need is like, some amount of time of people feeling the pain of all of these problems before we before we can like revisit the Atom 2.0 solution.
Yeah, there's also a question about whether there's any news about a new token model, but I don't think anybody is prioritizing that right now. Right? I think like
I don't know anyone.
Yeah, I mean I know like Youssef and like the Atom Accelerator DAO, like I think they want to put in some research into that and maybe come up with something, but yeah, I don't know. So Saki, what have you been busy with over the past couple of months? It's been a while since you've been on.
I've been very busy with Sommelier. I know you and Jack
Nice.
did an episode about it. Also, like I'd love to get me and Christy on at some point in the future, just talking about everything that's happening with Som. Also, USDC on Cosmos, DYDX launch. These are things, spending a huge amount of time with me and Jack working on. These are definitely the priorities.
Yeah, and we can talk a little bit about Sommelier. I think it's very interesting. Like we talked a little bit about it last time with Jack, but now I have two of the co-founders here. So yeah, I think Real Yield APR went live.
Real Yield
right?
USD is doing well. We're at about 15. We're at 15 million TVL as of today.
Nice.
We're competitively LPing one of the most competitive market, like providing liquidity on one of the most competitive Uniswap markets. It's a real demonstration of like that, like this technological architecture, it can be really powerful, can really get things done. And like, we're our sort of next thing that we have on the plate is we're working on a liquid staking derivative strategy.
Nice.
That I'm pretty excited about. We're actually also I was very impressed with the Axelar presentation in Denver at Interop. It was very compelling what Axelar put together in terms of the event. And we're looking pretty closely right now at Sommelier about making Axelar one of the mechanisms by which you can execute strategies over. Right now, you can only execute strategies over the Gravity Bridge, which just connects to Ethereum. And we've been looking very close. We're definitely in R&D mode about whether or not we can support Axelar inside of Som.
There was also a Canto integration or something, right? Or like a vault of Canto, or I saw something.
No, we just launched, or the community more specifically launched a Som pair on Canto.
Okay, just a listing. Okay, interesting. But yeah, no, I'm definitely down to make the Sommelier deep dive at some point with you guys. But yeah, so you've been mostly been working on Sommelier and like
Sommelier, Noble. These have been like kind of been top of my agenda. There's also, we're spinning up, I think with the sort of trying to bring the pieces of Atom 2.0 piecemeal into the hub, as all of these new liquid staking pieces are starting to come together. Stride is doing super well. Quicksilver is starting to move. With all of these pieces sort of coming together, we are I've been bringing like Lido, Stride, Quicksilver, Persistence. We're starting to work together about like what our plan is to get the liquid staking module out onto the Cosmos Hub, which I think is like a big piece of getting inflation down, frankly.
Yeah, it's currently at like 13% or something, right? It's quite high. Yeah. Do you know like what the plans are of Quicksilver? Because I think initially they were going to launch as a consumer chain, right?
Yeah. Right now they're still evaluating whether or not they want to be a consumer chain. I mean, Stride has done an extraordinary amount of dev work also on the becoming a consumer chain front, because it's not a trivial thing to go from being a sovereign chain to a consumer chain without breaking your IBC connections. And
really excited to see that.
And
like that's what's going to enable mobile.
I started with this work with the informal team about this being like a thing that, you know, and like started working on a design with them. The Stride team has like picked up that work, carried it forward, and now the informal team is kind of like bringing that around to like kind of the final stages, which is incredibly exciting. And I think really opens up, like, if that's successful, that's a huge demonstration of that, like, sovereign chains can come into replicated security without any sort of negative effects on product.
Yeah, it's also Comdex is also considering like what would be a chain that you say that makes a lot of sense for them to explore migrating, like an existing Cosmos app chain right now?
Other than the liquid staking providers, that's probably top of my mind about who's going to migrate. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Gravity Bridge.
I think who should migrate is like, again, you know, I don't have a full picture it doesn't inherently like super make sense to me who's going to benefit, who's going to achieve the most product differentiation, etc., by using replicated security other than the liquid staking providers, and, you know, potentially like stablecoin issuers.
Yeah,
but I don't foresee Agoric doing it, for instance.
Yeah, because IST is already live on Agoric now. They're not gonna explore to become a consumer chain. What about the Gravity Bridge? Do you think that's a candidate?
I'd love to see that. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think what to do. Frankly, I think, you know, it'll be interesting to see both the experiment of like the Gravity Bridge and I think in the longer term, axelar both have this, you know, securing much more like orders of magnitude more value than their TVL, and that their fee revenue can justify, and needing alternative sources of security is like one of the most challenging structures to secure. And one of the things that potentially makes the like sort of restaking technology most relevant. So yeah, I think Gravity coming on to is definitely something that needs to be explored. It would be, I mean, just to be clear, like a substantial lift for the validators. Like we talked about the lift for the validators of you talk about the lift for the validators of, you know, Neutron and like all these other chains, which is going, like, especially for, you know, the sort of bottom 20% of voting power is like already a lift, a pretty significant lift in terms of costs. Gravity would also be a pretty intense chain to run.
Galatasaray CA saying Huawei. Maybe that's all we need in the end of the day, just a meme coin as a consumer chain.
Sure.
What's your favorite meme coin, Zaki, that's not Atom?
Well, my favorite meme coin that's not Atom is my desire to launch sloths on top of Celestia.
Tell us more.
So like before Celestia was called Celestia, it was called Lazy Ledger.
Yes. Okay.
And I have long felt that the natural meme coin animal for Celestia is sloths.
There we go. Can somebody make a token already so we can buy it before it comes out?
No, we got to do it right.
Nice. Let me see. There's also a question about Stride is waiting for V2. I don't think so. I think they're
not
ready, no? They're ready to go.
No, they just need migration.
Yeah. Let's do because we're almost at an hour. Let's do some questions. There was actually a lot under the tweet I made. One from Youssef, who is running the Atom Accelerator DAO. After the Atom Accelerator, what other domain-specific DAO should launch on the hub? What do you think?
After the
IBC
accelerator, I do
IBC
think
DAO.
I mean, I think having like an essentially an replicated security, like a step towards the alligator would be like some sort of replicated security biz dev DAO, getting started, like some sort of replicated security product DAO.
Replicated security DAO, and Jack, you say IBC DAO.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's see if there's another question. Niels is asking, why CosmWasm and not another VM on the hub?
Oh, I mean, it's not exclusionary. If like, someone wants to take Polaris and launch an awesome EVM, Parachain, replicated security thing, that would be an amazing opportunity.
There's a good question actually. Mr. S, a question for both of you. If someone gave you $1 billion to spend on a Cosmos ecosystem, but you could only use it all on one project, what would it be and why?
Oh,
I have an answer to this.
go for it.
IBC, because there is $1 billion to be spent on that. Like, the amount of different state machines, different cryptography that's required to really truly reach the vision of IBC, which is this communications network that underlies all of these different verified state machines. It's an integrations problem. It's an organizational scaling problem. It's a software scaling problem. It's how do you get hundreds of thousands of people all around the world working on the same piece of technology. And that's like the thing within Cosmos that you could spend $1 billion on. And that $1 billion of public goods spending would create hundreds of billions of dollars in actual value that would really spur the Cosmos in a way that would be different.
Yeah, I think it's a good answer. Saki, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I think there are $2 billion problems in blockchains in general. One is interoperability, and the other one is MEV. Like sequence, like how do you building blocks in a fair way, achieving fairness, but also coordination between chains. And so I tend to view this as, I think Jack's answer is basically perfect, but the MEV sequencer problems are also are similar in scale and not necessarily as mature as IBC is right now, but there's a lot of rapid growth happening.
There's another question, and I got this a lot recently. The Cosmos Hub as IBC messaging routing. What about that idea?
This is a feature that Zaki always thinks is not a good idea. Axelar is kind of taking this market. There's going to be quite a bit of competition for it. That middleware that I wrote as a part of the proposal back a couple of years ago is now finally broadly adopted throughout Cosmos. It will be on all of the chains very soon. I still think that there's a market here. Now, we are too early for that market right now. IBC is 50 to 70 chains right now. If you look at ARPANET back then, everything was connecting to everything else. We didn't develop network topology until we hit hundreds and low thousands of nodes. So until IBC expands further, there is really no need for this technology. However, getting out ahead of it as the hub, I think, would benefit us. I think it's kind of unlikely that we do, but yeah, I do think it's a use case, not for a little while.
When Zaki, you think it's not necessary, or what are your thoughts?
So, I think that there are lots of like micro opportunities for this essentially. Whereas Axelar is succeeding as a messaging router for everywhere that essentially doesn't speak to Tendermint, right? Where there isn't an IBC client, right? And they're building a business for that. I also am extremely on one hand, I'm extremely excited about using Axelar on the sommelier front, and the I'm extremely excited about using Axelar on the sommelier front. On the other hand, I'm extremely concerned about whether or not message passing will generate enough value for Axelar to secure all of the value that will end up being over it. So this is the problem that you have is message routing does not have a super strong moat around it.
No,
because you can
there's
always
no moat.
you can always you can be undercut by someone going direct, right? And so as interop technologies mature, you're always being I was using this routing layer because it was cheap and convenient, but now it got expensive and there's a cheaper alternative transport layer. Well, why don't we start shifting value over there?
Let's do 2 quick questions to wrap it up. Here's a question about how the Cosmos ecosystem could increase NFT adoption. Ecosystems with small TVL have higher NFT volumes, like Tezos or Algorand. What are your thoughts on increasing the NFT adoption in Cosmos?
Yeah, I honestly, as I said, my answer that I always give to the NFT question is talk to the Saga team, talk to Jen and Rebecca.
Interview coming up, by the way, I think. Let me check my calendar. Next week.
Oh,
14th.
nice.
Yeah, 5 days. There we go. Next Tuesday.
They're doing a great job. Prior to the call, we were talking about Near and their team. Near has from the beginning had this focus on gaming, and I think that the NFT culture is very close to the gaming culture. So what can we do to increase NFT adoption within Cosmos? Have a better gaming community here. And Saga is kind of squarely focused on that in a way where I don't know of any other Cosmos project doing that. Also saw Jen and Rebecca in Denver too. Fantastic to see them.
I need to run.
Yeah.
Thanks,
guys.
Wait. Before you run, Zaki, please say something extremely bullish about Cosmos Hub and Atom Token.
This is extremely unfair. I saw this in the comments.
That's why you wanted to run.
I got to go to a meeting. I think, like I said, I think the best thing that is happening for Atom is that replicated security is asked and is live and is heading in a good direction.
We're heading in a good direction. All right. Thank you, Zaki. Jack, I think, we're already above an hour. So looking forward
I have to go do noble things.
Noble things. There we go.
We have a fun game for Noble launch.
Nice.
We're planning it.
Stay tuned.
So if you want some alpha, stay tuned.
When drop it here in 2 weeks. Who knows?
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can. I'll talk to Yelena.
All
right. I'll catch you guys soon.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for your questions, and bye-bye.